the reverse placebo effect. So tonight's topic is one that I haven't heard very much of. In fact, up until just recently, I swear to you, I thought that I had invented it. This is something I actually called the reverse placebo effect. Yeah, so it turns out that it was either already, maybe I subconsciously plagiarized it, I stole it from somebody who already invented it, or it's just invented and I thought of the same dang name of calling it the reverse placebo effect specifically. So here's a concept. If it feels bad, it probably is. We've understood for ages now how positive expectations affect the healing process. Wait, don't change now. No, I swear to you, it's true. It's one of the most famous concepts in science. It is. The reverse placebo. Oh, sorry. The placebo effect. That was a gaffe. It's an improvement in a person's medical condition regarded as the effect of a person's belief in the effectiveness of a treatment used. Okay, so you believe in a treatment and it comes true. Magical thinking, as they say. I'd call it magical thinking, but it's way better than magic. It works. Like these tricks are just like a low quality, parlor trick, like cheapo exhibits anyway. Now, if you didn't believe me earlier about these positive expectations, you're not going to believe me now. So for anybody who has courage enough to watch this, this placebo effect it can be turned around immediately. The second you have doubts, it's like Peter walking on water. You lose faith and you're going down. It's literally called a nocebo. Okay, when you look it up on Wikipedia anyway, it'll take you to nocebo. N-O-C-E-B-O. All one word. It means something of I come to hurt, and that's Latin. But anyhow, this is aka the reverse placebo. Now I can't believe that this actually existed. I thought I was going to coin it one day, but anyway, man, they probably stole it from me. They'd probably steal everything. Anyway, so it's the baneful effect on the body caused by dread that what you're doing is no dang good for you. And so if it feels bad, stop it. It's simple, like bad vibes like getting forced vaccinated, which is actually being tossed around these days. Have you guys even heard of the Geneva Conference? Whew, man. Or when opioids kill you faster because you really know you don't need them. More painful effect on the body. Knowing what you're doing is bad. And God pretty much gives you what you wish, I guess. If you're thinking like that, you probably should die faster because you seem to want to die faster. Exceptions for a lot of people out there, no doubt. Exceptions for a lot of people in a lot of pain. But, or, like, if you have a mask on, and you swear you're just constantly breathing in and breathing out the same breath of air, yeah, you and I are going to be the first ones to feel the side effects, which are really just the effects of not breathing enough. Because that's what you're doing. You're breathing in waste as you inhale with the mask on. To some degree, minimum. I don't care if you take the deepest breaths to get the most oxygen all the way through you, which you should, especially as masked up. But most people don't even do that. Think of all the shallow breathers out there that are just poisoning their brain. Anyway, so this is familiar by now. It's a placebo. If you're listening, I was actually holding up a surgery mask. That's all it is. It's a medical grade placebo. And what it's good for, block and spit. And man, is it good! Unless you want to ever have to cough or sneeze, in like a rapid succession, like, me and thousands of others out there that have really terrible allergies. Well, because then your spit like flies everywhere, maybe around your face and the little particulate, but except for this safe little zone right here, immediately in front of your placebo mask. Yeah. So it sucks for a lot of people like me, because all the uptight people would frown when you take your mask off, doing the sensible thing to not sneeze under it. It's real terrible. But then, like, hey, what if you didn't? And you'd be walking around with worse things than saliva on your face. And imagine, like, you're so docile, right, that you just keep it on. You figure, oh, okay, I'll play it off. I'll stick it to your face from your self-produced slime. And man, sorry to be so graphic, but then the wonders of science take hold and these germs germinate on your face. And so you have to block these thoughts out, because they're bad thoughts, and you got to be sinking like Peter. Downward spiral. Because you think about how unsanitary it is, you can't help but feel bad about it. No, terrible. Like, you really want to get that worry out of your body. And all that worry, that's baneful too. It leads to pain. And so you need to train your brain to be able to get rid of it and have it go down the drain. But anyway, talked about Peter. Yeah, so I mean, you'd be better off sneezing down your shirt. There's somewhere where your nose isn't camping out. I mean, for crying out loud, it's right there. So, Exhibit B. This is about the ugliest looking cloth mask I ever saw in my life. Yeah, so that was a cloth mask that I was holding up, and oh yeah, what this is a virus magnet, and maybe a virus culture medium. The more you breathe, the grosser it gets. Yeah, according to received wisdom, we're wearing these to help others, at the expense of our collective dignity. I mean, which is great, because remember, we'd be in close quarters back in the day. We'd all just be spitting all over each other like Daffy Duck constantly. I mean, we were reckless, maskless. Think of the countless flu seasons. We just tolerated this communal spread. Oh man, was that ever so far back in those dark ages of the old normal, when mankind, it was alleged, had these things that were wondrous called immune systems. Yeah, we come a long way since then, haven't we, in our scientific knowledge? Too, here's a little scientific throwback, because I like history. Now this goes all the way back to the Dr. Leach era of 2013. It says the title of this particular study is Testing the Efficacy of Homemade Masks. Would they protect you in an influenza pandemic? Alright, it's the part where I read a lot. So go to sleep now. I'll wake you up when it's done. It was controlled with surgical masks. It doesn't say that it was randomized. Its conclusion was, a protective face mask may reduce the likelihood of infection, but it will not eliminate the risk, particularly when a disease has more than one route of transmission. They're talking about, is it just droplets, or is it also aerosol? Is it something else that I don't know? I don't know. Is voodoo or woo-woo? One of the two. More than one route of transmission. Also, not just the face, like that. The mandible, the jaws, the nose. You got ears, you got eyes. There's different paths, I think, but I've also heard some of these really stupid-sounding doctors that are on TV saying that you might just get conjunctivitis whenever you get it in your eyeball, as opposed to actually catching COVID-19. And luckily, they don't even test your eyeball with that little pokey thing. So I don't think you'd go and get your eyeball tested and turn positive. But you never know. These things could settle and they could actually colonize you, according to legend. Or is it scientific fact? So anyway, It says, thus, any mask, no matter how efficient at filtration or how good the seal, will have minimal effect if it is not used in conjunction with another preventative measure or preventative measures. They're talking about like washing your hands and, common sense stuff. An improvised face mask should be viewed as the last possible alternative if a supply of commercial face masks is not available. Improvised homemade face masks will provide the wearer little protection from microorganisms from other persons who are infected with respiratory diseases. As a result, we would not recommend the use of homemade face masks as a method of reducing transmission of infection by aerosols. It's from aerosols. Okay, so anyway, that was one study. I thought it was worth mentioning because I don't want to just talk about all this woo-woo placebo. I know hardly anybody out there believes in such kookery, but I wanted to talk about the science that might actually make you have bad vibes, or misgivings, if you will. I mean, I'm going to get into some of the ways that you should, based on the reports that have to do with preliminary trials. So, if you didn't know about that, I'd say it's by design by now. I mean, because this stuff is like 2 weeks ago. I've been sitting on this. It's going to be extra long probably then. Anyway, I ain't just going to stick to the script either. Because I pretty much got that. So this is even later, or earlier. This is way 2008. Wow. I mean, did they even have internet back then? I'm only kidding. Man, I was alive back then, but... so... This is what science used to say before there was a sudden 2020 pandemic. We have pure vision now. Yeah, don't you see so perfectly? It says professional and homemade masks reduce exposure to respiratory infections amongst the general population. Oh, well, it's settled right there in the title, isn't it already? Great. What are the results of a short-term inward protection experiment? It says, short-term inwards protection is behind the mask. Underneath the mask, does it protect you? Okay. It says, surgical masks provided about twice as much protection as homemade masks. This is twice as good as this. Okay. I'm going to say N95, because that's what people understand. But this is supposed to be the European variant of the N95 mask. N95 masks provided adults with about 50 times as much protection as homemade masks and 25 times as much protection as surgical masks. Alright. That means that these, which are better than the other ones, are barely doing a thing. In fact, it's interesting. Just think about why this would even be any better than that. Because this is an aerosolized thing. It just goes everywhere. So having these masks on, it doesn't even pretend to filter anything, is redonkulous. We don't need this. This is some real smooth, I should say harsh jazz they're trying to cram into our ear. Yeah. So anyway, N95 protected 50 times as much protection as homemade masks and 25 times as much protection as surgical masks. Now in the long-term inward protection experiment, it says, as in the short-term experiment, protection conferred by surgical masks was higher than protection given by a homemade mask, and protection provided by the N95 mask was again markedly higher than the protection provided by a surgical mask. Alright, so long-term, same results. Alright, the outward protection experiment. Well, it says protection factors for all types of masks were considerably lower than those observed for the inward protection. So, outward protection is from the mask out. Not in will protect the people outside the mask, of you wearing a mask. If you're hypothetically sick, well, it says the homemade masks only provided marginal protection, while protection offered by a surgical mask and N95 mask didn't differ. Wow. So, even that filtered one is only filtered on the way in. That M95, yeah, that's great for now. But, I'm telling you, man. Well, on the inhale, it's good. But, hey, even whenever it says that in the guidance by the CDC that you should be wearing the N95 mask for like 8 hours straight? You gotta be shitting me. I'm sorry, that's insane. That's way too long. I mean, by then, unless you're like gassing it so that you kill everything that you breathed out the entire time, 8 hours? 8 hours, you probably have a lot of junk right in front of your face. I'm saying, like, you probably need to brush your mask, like your teeth, at that point. But, in the discussion part, it said homemade masks and to a lesser degree surgical masks are unlikely to confer much protection against transmission of small particles like droplet nuclei. It says, this is a good part right here, it says it cannot be excluded that the amount of protection conferred by homemade masks might sufficiently reduce viral exposure to impact on transmission during the early waves, allowing people enough exposure to start mounting an effective immune response. So if I can translate, it's saying that with a mask, you can contract the virus and then your immune system can take care of it, dummy. You know, so why even wear a mask then, dummy? Well, so this one is only, maybe your parents were alive in this era. This is the 2015 era. This is where there was a study. I think it was centered in Vietnam. It was it's called a cluster randomized trial of cloth masks compared with medical masks in healthcare workers. 1,607 hospital healthcare workers for every shift for 4 weeks. The objective, the aim of this study was to compare the efficacy of cloth masks to medical masks in hospital healthcare workers. The null hypothesis, which means that their hypothesis exploded upon probing, is that there's no difference between medical masks and cloth masks. Well, the results, the rates of all infection outcomes were highest in the cloth mask arm. You don't say. With the rate of influenza-like illnesses statistically significantly higher in the cloth mask arm compared with the medical mask arm. Cloth masks also has significantly higher rates of influenza-like illnesses compared with the control arm. An analysis by mask use showed influenza-like illnesses and laboratory-confirmed virus were significantly higher in the cloth mask group compared with the medical mask group. Penetration of cloth masks by particles was almost 97%, and medical masks 44%. It's saying that whenever you breathe or cough through one of these homemade cloth masks, then about 97% of the virus gets right through it. Your breathing is 97%. This is doing nothing except for making us gross. These are not hygienic. These masks are a placebo at best. Man, I'm telling you, it's worse than a placebo. It's a nocebo. No dice, no go. So, oh yeah, I'm done with that. The conclusions is set. This study is the first randomized controlled trial of cloth masks, and the results caution against the use of cloth masks. Moisture retention, reuse of cloth masks, and poor filtration may result in increased risk of infection. Further research is needed to inform the widespread use of cloth masks globally. However, as a precautionary measure, cloth masks should not be recommended for healthcare workers, particularly in high-risk situations, and guidelines need to be updated. Well, it's been 5 years, and they ain't updated, obviously, because their guidelines still say that these cloth masks do wonders for you. Well, if not that, they say you have to freaking wear them. At the very least, but I say at most. That's like walking around with the noose around your neck. So, alright, water time. Oh yeah, they shouldn't be recommended for healthcare workers, right there in this study conclusion. Okay, particularly in high-risk situations, and guidelines need to be updated. And these same people probably they're postponing this 5-year now update are probably related to the same people that are trying to warp speed out an mRNA vaccine. Human experiment vaccine. Vaccine impossible. Well, it's about the only good news I've heard these days. Oh, thank heaven, Moderna, they're now in their final phase of trials. Oh, whippy, with this vaccine impossible. And you know, all these participants got neutralizing antibodies. Well, why Bloomberg even reported Moderna shares surged as much as 18% in U.S. trading, despite a high rate of side effects. Wait a second. Despite a high rate of side effects. Shoot, did I just say despite a high rate of side effects? Among the 45 patients, there's only 45 patients in the trial of this wondrous vaccine. It's being touted everywhere as it's going to save humanity from the pitfalls of medicine gone incompetent or something. But this is incompetent medicine. Only 45 people in a study where most of the people got side effects. Okay, 45 patients who got the shot with three experiencing severe reactions. Yeah, the severe reactions, I think they happen in the high dose group. Okay, but hey, as far as the mRNA vaccine goes, it's still the best one yet, huh? More than half of participants who got the middle of 3 doses administered in the Moderna trial suffered mild to moderate fatigue, chills, headache. I tell you, I'm getting the chills just thinking about this. Muscle pain. Also, 40% of people in the middle dose group experienced a fever after the second vaccination. Yeah, that's right, blockhead. They're trying to give us more than one injection. Yeah, they ain't done with one. That's why they don't even want to open up the economy. Not until we all get all the vaccines. I mean, why just stop at one mandatory forced vaccine, right? There are all these other plagues that are just awash, like, oh my gosh, we're going to go destroy the humans. And they're going to be blaming it on overpopulation like they already have. Because why is it so polluted? Overpopulation. Why is there global warming? Overpopulation. Why is there no resources? Why is there resource wars? They say overpopulation. Okay, it comes down to, that's just dollars too. Because so much of us are on a sucker. Because they make us suckers. Because they don't want to give us freedom, so they have to give us money. It's a pacification system. And I don't mean to get off on a rant, a righteous jag, but you know, sometimes, man, I just know how. Anyway, so a second vaccination. Anyway, 3 of 14 patients that got the highest dose experienced severe side effects. But that dose isn't being used in the larger tests. Oh, thank God. Man, that's a lot of adverse events, said Tony Moody, a doctor and researcher at the Duke Human Vaccine Institute, which doesn't sound anything worse than the Third Reich ever had. He said it would be unusual for a vaccine to have this rate of side effects. Oh, 40%, pish posh. It's just some vaccine, some crackpot thing a vaccine hesitant person would say, right? My kingdom for some note time. Okay, every other MSM doctor clown can't be wrong, they say. But why do I shift from masks to vax? Well, it's because their cockamamie justification for both is the same. It goes, screw you. Think of others around you. We all have to make sacrifices. Human sacrifices. Like back when the 1976 swine flu vaccine debacle, it only killed far more people than the actual swine flu itself did. This newfangled, great product, as Trump will probably tell. Codenamed mRNA 1273. Sounds cuddly to you, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. I doubt it was Moderna's PR department that made that up. It's probably their War Department did. Yeah, no doubt. So code names, you know, you think those are like for military and intelligence operations. You know, like Operation Warp Speed. And hey, isn't that creature Moncef Slaoui that worked for GlaxoSmithKline, isn't he the head of this Warp Speed? And he's being assisted by a commander of the U.S. Army Materiel Command, General Gustave Perna. Right? I read about that. No, wait, wasn't Trump saying he was going to deploy the military to activate this vaccine on us? Hey, don't make me go into the dark depths of how forced vaccination is a real metaphor for rape. Alright, but just know that that leads me to my justification for refusing both the mask and the vaccine are the same. Just like theirs for trying to enforce it. It's the reverse placebo effect. Essentially, if you dread that what you're doing may be detrimental to your health, it tends to become self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, here's this smarmy douche. It's Fauci. Here's quoting what he said. I want to protect myself and protect others, and also because I want to make it be a symbol for people to see that it's the kind of thing you should be doing. I don't know how he talks. But, hey, if you were to ask me, I say it's a symbol too. I say it's a symbol that we're in the midst of a pandemic. You take the symbol off. Alright? This ubiquity is a constant reminder that some people are still taking this shit seriously. Well, it's a sign. It's also a symbol that we as a people are real mentally traumatized. Paralyzed by fear. With low O2 levels. Less oxygen to the brain. More fear governing our thoughts and behaviors. So when someone says, please read the only cough mask study, you'll see they're no good for you. They can't handle the load. I mean, they're probably several steps removed from actually cognitively deciphering the science. And they probably rather just mock not only you, but the science you reference too. Well, it's simple. Will you not look at the studies? Sorry. Will you look at the studies if they say no? Well, sound like a science denier to me. No. No, I want all the guys out there to be quick to, as soon as a woman takes off a mask, just tell her how much more gorgeous she suddenly looks. Alright, that's gonna win over some hearts and definitely change some minds too. And you might even want to throw in like, hey, it's too bad you have to wear these abominations out here that make you break out with terrible acne. And so that's gonna be me for this week, or this segment, or this venture. And so thanks for being on my bumpy ride. So I'm just gonna get better and probably go over my notes a couple more times next time. The longer it is, the more times I should probably go over the dang notes. Anyway, I hope y'all are well. I'm going to see you in the next episode.